Hello, my name's Lesley Atherton and this is my dystopian short story called Home is Leaving Us. So, there they were. Abandoned and laid none too gently on the rocky ground, these involuntary transportee migrants may have been minor criminals, forcibly removed from the prison ship, but they were no asylum seekers. They lay, not waiting and not watching, but absent-eyed and still for now. Just 1 hour ago they had been stretchered and poked and prodded from the prison shuttle, still sedated from their long journey, and of less danger to the human prodders than the occasional rat or louse who shared the transportees' quarters. But now the sedation was wearing off, and the agonised, bloodied faces of the transportees were beginning their reanimation. As they did so, and as they neared normality, their pain would come to the fore. The pokers and prodders were aware that this pain time was drawing near, and anxiety was etched into the deep furrows of their faces, part hidden behind heavy metal helmets. All knew that this mission had to be performed properly, or not at all. "Move it!" shouted the mission's captain, a large, stocky, dark-haired female who had for years been ironically named Titch. "Move it! Let's go!" Her dialogue was limited by the lack of adequately breathable atmosphere and conditioned by the watching of too many 21st century Hollywood action movies. "Let's go!" Titch repeated. "Let's get the hell out of here!" Her team of 10 women and 14 men, all wearing protective metal armour, the like of which had not been seen since medieval times, clunked determinedly back to the shuttle. They would return to the space prison in honour and glory. Saviours of humanity they'd be called. Genetic warriors, perhaps, or freedom fighters. Titch smiled to herself as she counted her colleagues in. 22, 23, where was 24? Titch looked around the team. 23, that was all. "Remove helmets, team," she shouted. A mental scan of faces revealed by its absence the missing member. Carson is missing." "But, Captain, the doors will be closing in 14 seconds. "Yes, officer, and we will be leaving without Carson. The mission is more important than one engineer." "We'll leave him to his fate then, Captain." "We must." The first officer rested her helmet on her lap and stood up to confront the captain. "I can't do that, Captain. I demand we override the door settings and search for our missing team member." "Demand overruled. 2 seconds, 1 second." And as the doors shut, the first officer hurled herself out of the doorway. "I won't go without him," she shouted, as she rolled into the de-embarkation zone of the quarantine area known as Planet 998. Titch sat silently as she watched First Officer Knight search without joy for Engineer Carson amongst the awakening bodies on the rocks. There was no override option on the doors. Neither was there an override program for the spaceship's takeoff procedure. "Take off 10 seconds, drawled the shipboard computer. The team members looked around uneasily. 2 of their team members were on Planet 998 with the transportees, drugged and sedated victims of the Earth's most vindictive virus, who had been removed from the prison and taken to die their long, lingering deaths on this barely habitable planet. The transportees, who could barely be called people anymore. The transportees who were more dead than alive, more thought-free than thinking. This virus survived partly because of the speed with which it spread, and partly because of the pain it inflicted on its victims, and by their desire for release from pain they ingested the bodily fluids of others. Most victims died of their wounds, which was a blessing compared to their slower death from the virus. Horrible though it was, this viral life cycle was successful. This transportation trip was the 15th this year so far. This one, the first to remove the viral undead from the huge prison ship orbiting the Earth. These petty criminals were made dangerous by the virus, for now they could not die as an uninfected person would, by bullet or gas or wounding. They could only feel pain, relief from pain, or an agonizing wasting away to dust. Planet 998 had been selected as the solar system's lingering death zone for this very reason. Oxygen was limited, so uninfected humanity and other advanced life forms did not exist there, meaning the transportees would die in the only way their viral infection allowed, a a slow, lingering and painful death, as all their body tissues decomposed from the inside out. Captain Titch's stomach lurched as the spaceship lifted from the ground of Planet 998, its engines thankfully drowning out the screaming of First Officer Knight at the discovery of the clearly infected body of her lover, and the gradual reanimation of those who once were human and now sought relief from the worst pain imaginable. They were seeking fresh body fluids, and First Officer Knight was very fresh indeed. Captain Titch saluted her two soon-to-be-fallen team members, and the shuttle's journey back to the space prison continued, but silently and malevolently the virus incubated in its chosen crew members. The shuttle would never again return to the space prison. Captain Titch would never again sit with her cat on her lap or cheer for her favoured hockey team. The virus would make sure of that. And back on Planet 998, First Officer Knight was being encircled by Engineer Carson. But this embrace was not their usual writhing embrace of lovers, rather the agonised, violent search for fluids to relieve his agony. Her head, soon free of its helmet, would be the first part of Night to succumb to Carson's biting, viral kiss.